Good evening, Fernwood. It's your TV pal Neil, and it's time for some more late night variety madness with another episode of Fernwood Tonight. If you're new here, we watch the episode, then we talk about it because people like to talk. And today we are going to start with episode 27 from August 9th, 1977. We're not quite halfway through the series, but we better take a look back so we can keep going forward. Barth Gimble started his patter by letting us know that his issues with whiplash have been resolved, especially after he was contacted by a lawyer who has connections to Miami. Then Happy Kine hustled on in with the new young Miss Bunnin run, that's Patty Thomas, right up until we bring out DJ Larry Guy from WZAZ, who's here to tell us about his new correspondence course that teaches you through the mail how to be a radio DJ. Connie Bushman returns to tell us how movies have lately been stirring up prejudice when it comes to animals like sharks and rats. And Jerry maybe doesn't realize that stereotypes are a bad thing. And then Barth lets Larry Guy sign us off on the show, and that was where we ended yesterday, folks, so let us begin.
Tonight from Fernwood, Fernwood Tonight, 30 minutes of remarkable entertainment, coming to you live with your host for tonight, Mr. Barth Gimble. Tonight, Barth's guest will be William W.D. Budd Prize, with a proposal to make Fernwood an X-rated community. Mr. Philip Maltby, who claims that his pants are innocent, and Happy Kine and the Mirth Makers. And me, I'm Jerry Hubbard. And now here's your host and mine, Mr. Barth Gimble.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fernwood Tonight. My name is Barth Gimble. Thank you, okay. I come to you tonight, I think, a sadder but a little bit wiser Barth Gimble. I'm sure that you all are more than aware of the wonderful plans we've been putting together so painstakingly for the first annual Barth Gimble Pro-Am Golf Classic Tournament. Now I'm afraid you're going to be just as painfully aware of something else. It's canceled. Oh. Hey, lighten up. I'm with you, folks. I am with you. I'd have liked nothing better than to have been the Bing Crosby of Ohio, but not unlike Mr. Crosby, Bingle himself, I too have lost hope. That's not your fault, though. You generous people of Fernwood, you agreed with me that big-time golf in a small-town atmosphere was well worth the $50 a pop we were charging, and you helped me to amass what, to most of us who work for a living, I think constitutes a small fortune in prize monies. But apparently, our nation's touring pros think an $800 purse is something to sneeze at, or is. Well, no wonder they're touring. Who would want people with that mentality staying in their town for more than a weekend? Golf is supposed to be a gentleman's sport, but if that's the case, then why would Chichi Rodriguez be so rude as to suggest that we take our prize money and place it in our 19th hole? I didn't think that was too nice. Hey, but let's not wallow in the sand trap. There is a bright side. We've got the $800. And unlike those so-called athletes, I'm not so much of a snob to turn my nose up at 800 big ones. I did a job. I did it the best I could. And when a job is well done, it should be paid for. Yeah, I've learned a great lesson, I think, and I'll be applying what I've learned towards the Garth Gimble Memorial Tennis Classic, which is now in the planning stages. Yeah, we've contacted the William Morris Agency in order to get a hold of Jimmy Connors, and it's common knowledge that Arthur Ashe loves the game, so I think we're in business. Advance sale tickets are available at $75 a pop, and we're looking forward to your support, okay?
And that's in honor of your late brother Garth, so he would have wanted it this way.
Oh, I'm sure he would have. And he would have made it 85.
That's right. He would have understood that little inflationary hike in prices. And incidentally, everyone here at the station is behind you in this whole mess that you got into the golf tournament. I couldn't help overhearing them coming up. They're really admiring the way you hung on here, persevered.
Jerry.
They're speaking about you in only the most glowing terms, really.
Oh, Jerry, what can I say? That's just terrific.
What does chutzpah mean?
I believe that means courage, Jerry. It's a Muslim word, and it means courage. Okay. We'll be right back after these important words. Stay with us.
Learn how to do it yourself on TV12's new how-to lineup. Starting at 8, stretch yourself into shape and relaxation with Lilius, Yoga, and You. Then at 8:30, discover the creative art.
Thank you, Happy. Happy Kine and the Mirth Makers. Let's hear it, Frank.
When he plays, it's music to my ears.
Absolutely. It's supposed to be, I think.
Yeah.
Our next guest has been with us before. He is the ambassador at large here for Fernwood, and allegedly in connection with the Chamber of Commerce here. Every time he comes on the show, it's kind of exciting. We talk about different things like the energy crisis and bringing industry to Fernwood.
Got a lot of comments on those things.
Wonderful. Let's please welcome all of us, as if we cared, Mr. William W.D. Bud Prize.
Gosh, you stirred up a furor the last couple of times.
Yeah, I tell you, I've been busier than a monkey without a tail.
Oh, that's great.
Just going all over the state, you know, tooting Fernwood's horn, proclaiming of its beauties and appeal and all like that.
Well, you've been making a bit of noise right here on the show. As I was telling the people earlier, we discussed energy crisis, and you had some wonderful ideas for conserving energy. We also talked about bringing industry right here to Fernwood, and you wouldn't believe the stack of mail we got. And we thought maybe to just inflate your ego a little bit, you might like to hear some of the responses.
Well, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, this won't take a second. You can share in this with us, I think. The first person writes, I was very interested in your speaker who advocated bringing new industry to Fernwood. One question comes to my mind, however. After seeing him speak, what is that device he wears on his chin? That's kind of interesting.
There you have we got a lot of these. We just picked out a few. Your recent energy advocate, Mr. William W.D. Bud Prize, you got your name and everything, brought out some interesting ideas. But what's that thing he wears around his face? It looks like a wiffle ball held on by a garter.
There's one Mr. Bud Prize, they apparently know you pretty well, mentions new locations for industry here in Fernwood. How about building a factory under that chin of his? Some
people don't enter.
I'm used to it. I'm used to it. It just rolls right off my back like a duck.
Here's one. Who was that imbecile on your show with the athletic supporter around his head? You gotta separate the chaff from the grain here, wheat from the grain or whatever.
So at any rate,
yeah, see, that's it. That's what makes me mad. Now, every time, I've been on the show twice, haven't I?
Yeah.
And both times I was on this show, I told the people what this was on my chin. You see, that's what makes me mad. Is people that doesn't tune in a show like this at the very beginning like that. I say, watch TV, get off the pot.
Let's just cut through all the flack here. Let's get right down to it and just kind of bring this thing out in the open. I'm kind of curious myself. What is that thing on your chin?
Well, you's right here. I told you, and you's right here. Well, that's a device for, I don't know, you've probably noticed, did I have a slight underbite?
Well, I can see better, of course, from here.
I have this slight underbite. I've had it since I was a child, and had the usual problems as a child because I also had just a continual case of ringworm. So I spent my time, most of the time, with my chin jutting out like this and all the kids making fun of it and wearing my mother's stocking on my head.
Just right around, so
Wait a minute. I am walking along the street one day and I seen this, I'm by the new development. And I see this man, and he's up on the roof, and he's doing tuck pointing.
Okay, well, first of all, what is tuck pointing? I don't think we all know here.
Well, tuck pointing, it's like tuck pointing. It's when you it's tuck pointing.
Okay, I guess we all know now. So.
That's not the point of the story. Here's the exciting part. So I'm standing there, I'm watching this guy. So he looks down at me and sees down there and says, Hey, Lantern Jaw.
Whoa.
Okay,
That's a
it
sore
is
spot with you,
serious.
too.
Boy, you can just imagine how hot I got, because I get hot. So I says a couple of things to him, and he starts to climb down. I says, come on down here. He starts to climb down, see? That's when I seen he had a twinkle in his eye. And he says, I've seen cases of your kind and description, and believe me, there's nothing that is that permanent about your condition. So he started telling me about this man's name. It's Cletus Emmett Wheelwelker. Cletus Emmett Wheelwelker. Now, this is a fascinating character, the most fascinating man I've ever met in my entire life. Born in Elizabeth, New Jersey, of poor parentage, next to the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and this boy had nothing to play with but the discarded spools from Singer Sewing Machine.
He called you Lantern Jaw. How high up was he? I mean, you must have had quite a case at that time if he was up on top of a building.
Well, I was steaming. It took him a while to get down there, and I was steaming.
He was way up there.
Well, he was up there. Well, we shared a sandwich. It was his lunchtime. We shared a sandwich. I went out, got a couple of knee highs, and we started talking in.
You're saying your jaw came around that corner before you did, eh?
He started. We starts talking about all of these things that he's did in his life. He unfortunately lost a leg very early in his lifetime.
Oh, boy.
And this boy glued together spools and made him a wooden stumpy leg all out of discarded spools. Painted each one of them a different color, red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue. And then red, white. Let's go down to the ground.
So the older he got, the more patriotic he got. Really?
That's that. Well, he left Elizabeth, New Jersey, took to the road, very young age. He was all over. First man to find gold in Honolulu. Went to Washington, D.C., done all kind of top secret spy work on flying saucers, which is real hush-hush, but there you are.
Sure. And you're probably very self-conscious wearing this device, but really you don't know.
Oh, no, before I was.
Yeah.
I felt like a fool before.
Well, you know, you're self-conscious.
Now, you know, anybody who looks at me knows I'm doing something about the handicap.
Absolutely.
If they even notice the device, really.
Well, you're in your second year of wearing it now, William.
Yeah, well, you know, he just does chinadontia. You know, all them other things he does. Well, he's a fascinating man. You know, he's greyhounding on his way to Gary, Indiana. Cletus was. And got off at Fernwood, said, this is a real nice town. Had him a Brussels sprout layout. Out by the highway, and then there was the blight of 67. Well, the sprouts never come back right. And closed up the stand on the highway and everything, and just began doing...
Same fellow that went off up to the Dakotas there and was dealing with that retirement village in Mount Rushmore, Rio Rushmore. Is that it?
Absolutely correct.
Putting the housing unit in the nostrils of the various presidents. Said it was open space. Why not? It's away from the wind. Why not live and work under the very noses of some of the greatest Americans who ever lived?
He was going in there with one of them big drills, and he's going to clean out all them sinus passages.
You had to blow that whole thing right out, though, because I remember the government put its foot down on that, yeah.
You get apartments up in the sinus cavities and everything there. It's a shame it didn't work out.
Well, they do it in the Statue of Liberty. I don't know
Swimming
why
pools go right down the bridge of the nose. It was great for the kids, but nothing.
Just out of interest, for other listeners who might be carrying around a basketball under their lower lip like you are, how long does this have to stay on there? Is it almost off?
8 years, give or take a month or two. I want to tell you something. The moment I take this baby off, it's going to be right on this show.
Wow.
I don't care about Merv. I don't care about Johnny. I don't care about... Well, I do care about Dinah. I do care about Dinah. She's a big bone woman. I love a big bone woman.
Oh,
She don't know me from Adams, you know. So, you know.
Okay, let's hope we're still here in 8 years.
Probably say, who's he?
Hey,
Yeah.
what the HE double hockey sticks.
Yeah.
It's great talking to you again. It always has been.
Too bad we didn't get a chance to get into this energy situation.
Come on, boy.
You were also
I start to talking, you know, and I can talk your donkey's leg off. We didn't get into the factory closing and nor the fluoride in the water, nor nothing like that.
What was this gentleman's name again? I forget his name.
Cletus Emmett Wheelwelker.
Sounds like he had a very exciting life. Very interesting life.
Really exciting. Fascinating.
Where is he now?
Well, you know, he's here now, and this device here was made in his garage. Now, believe it or not, this man, we're like this now. You know, we've become real close.
Again. I just wanted to
So,
say.
yeah, well, we become real close, and there is portions of that garage that is off limits even to me.
Is that right? More
Locked
spool works?
tighter than a drum.
More spool works? He's
Well, it's top secret work that's been did for somebody. I don't know. I wouldn't even conjecture about it.
Well, I guess as we think about this, it's probably only really interesting to us and Mr. Willwacker himself, so we'll be right back after these words. Thanks, Happy. You know, recently here on the show, a medical researcher brought along some very dramatic evidence that proved convincingly that those extremely comfortable and somewhat good-looking leisure suits cause cancer. If you remember, he showed us a test case of 100 rats who wore the double knits for a full year and then suddenly just took lunch. Well, Channel 6 has a policy of offering equal time for opposing viewpoints. Consequently, here with a rebuttal to Dr. Van Moot, you remember him, and we won't go into it. Dr. Van Moot's medical research into cancer-causing leisure suits. We have a rebuttal. Philip Maltby from Phil's Fashion Funwear. Almost got your name wrong there. And,
oh, no, Philip Maltby is it. Maltby's.
Okay. Maltby's the name, leisure suit's the game.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's great.
Exactly right.
You said it looked kind of natty in your little leisure suit there, but according to Dr. Van Moot's research, you're courting disaster. I give you about an hour and a half.
Well, I'm not afraid, Bart. I'm not afraid a bit. Indeed, I wore the leisure suit today for that very purpose, to show that I am not scared of this illegitimate threat that he's thrown out here. Believe me, every leisure suit that I sell wouldn't hurt a fly.
Well, I think there's 100 rats that would like to disagree with you on that.
Well, that's exactly right, but all I have to say to that is, so what? I mean, a bunch of rats keel over, what does that mean? Maybe you shouldn't buy a leisure suit for your rat. But besides that, these are laboratory rats. These are animals that have been trained for generations to simulate human symptoms. Perhaps some of them were just trying to please the researcher, maybe. Besides, maybe they were smoking, watching television, drinking Diet Cola, cooking their food in little microwave ovens.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd keel over from any of that, whether or not they were wearing leisure suits.
Yeah, that's possibly true.
Yes. Well, the thing is, Barth, that you can prove anything if you assemble some facts. I mean, for example, you could make a pretty good case for the idea that fezzes cause brain damage. You know, from masturbation behavior. You know, you make a bunch of little fezzes and put it on 100 rats, and I guarantee you, within a week, those rats aren't going to remember their own name, let alone be able to read it right. They're going to be dropping water bombs on the hamsters, you know, going after the canaries with cattle prods. Sure.
Checking into hotels in Philadelphia.
Exactly, getting their own.
Then you don't know what caused the death.
It's true.
Pretty strong statements, though, and can't help but say that after hearing Dr. Van Moot's evidence, I'm still not going to take my own life in my hands and buy a complete wardrobe of these things down at your wonderful store.
Barth, come along. I'm living proof, aren't I? This is a leisure suit, leisure shirt. I'm wearing leisure underwear. These are leisure shoes. At night I go to bed in leisure pajamas, and I'm as healthy as a horse.
Never had any heart trouble?
No, I haven't, Jerry.
No liver infections or...
No, very good there.
No asthma?
No asthma.
No tendinitis?
Jerry?
No.
Excuse me, former athlete.
Yes.
Phil, the fact of the matter is that Dr. Van Moot came in with actual medical research. And so far, all you've really given us is an advanced look at this year's fashion report.
Yes, well, I've got some facts. I have some facts, and I think you'll agree that these doctors are looking out for some way to aggrandize their own income, some kind of way to get publicity for themselves. I think that's motivating them. The facts I'm talking about are the facts that we all know, that the cells of our body are in a rhythmic, harmonious relationship with one another in a healthy person. Sickness is just another name for the condition in which some of the cells get out of rhythm with the other cells. They're listening to a different drummer, as it were.
So you're saying sort of almost the rhythm method is a way to health. That's kind of interesting.
Yes, well, you see, the weave in the leisure suits is in interlocking circles, and when sunlight strikes through that, or indeed sound waves come through it, it exercises a soothing and a calming and a harmonizing influence on those renegade cells and brings them back into harmony with the body as a whole. It creates a state of soothing health.
Almost puts the cells become so relaxed they almost have should we speak more quietly? I guess we should. You know, all this.
Bud, we're doing a show here.
Look at the look on his face. Wide awake.
I have to stay awake. You have to, too.
It's all right. Don't you ever do it again.
I'm embarrassed. No, it's, I understand these little
We could
sugar
always-
lift there.
Time to get up.
No, I'd like.
Quite serious, I'm rather interested in this, and you were talking about... Had to do with suits, don't tell me.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Something about getting sick in suits. That's why you were here.
Yes, well, no, suits get you well, actually. Suits get you well. They do get you well. We discovered this. I didn't just come across this. It was because of my mother. My mother. She was in deep trouble. We tried everything. And as a last resort, we popped her into a 34 long there, left her for about a week. Complete remission. She's jumping up and down, knitting, complaining, just as usual.
Just hold on. Are you going so far as to say that leisure suits don't cause cancer? You go so far as to say they cure cancer?
Barth, I'm not going to rule that out. We have a research team working day and night in a back room down at Phil's Fashion Funwear on exactly this problem. These are men with advanced degrees in fashion medicine, and I'd like to tell you that I feel my responsibilities in this area very, very strongly, and that's why I am donating 10 cents out of every single leisure suit dollar to support this research team. And they're working right now, even as we speak, trying to find evidence to support the idea that leisure suits enhance and improve health.
And you sell those suits at almost cost, too, don't you?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
This is no picnic for you. You're really...
Yes, I appreciate your mentioning that, Jerry, but I am an entrepreneur.
That's what you had this earlier. This is a photograph of your mother wearing a leisure suit here. Can we all see that? That's for sure.
She's got a nice smile.
Well, I guess for all of you out there, that must be proof. Sounds exciting. Not only exciting, it sounds profitable. I believe in that kind of stuff. I'm sure that we'll all want to come down and visit you at Phil's Fashion Funwear and Medical Center. Is that what you're calling it?
Exactly.
Research lab? That's great. We'll be right back after these words. Stay with us. Of course. Well, we're back, and it's amazing how time flies when you're working for scale. So, just have a few minutes here to thank my regulars, him, and also my special guest, Philip Maltby, from Maltby's Fun Fashion Funwear. Is that it?
It's Phil's Fashion Funwear, Bart.
Okay. Best of luck with it, and also William W.D. Bud Prize, who had a very big day today, and apparently will have a big one tomorrow. That's about it. Good night.
Kenneth Mars as Mr. William W.D. Bud Prize, and Morgan Upton as Philip Maltby.
Well, we know that Barth has had no issues with his whiplash ever since being contacted by that lawyer. But also now we are getting the news that the Barth Gimbel Pro-Am Golf Classic has been canceled. And that is bad news for Barth. Apparently, the prize money that he was putting up, the $800, well, that's maybe not enough to actually have a big old celebrity golf tournament. But he does seem to be turning it forward into the Garth Gimble Memorial Tennis Tournament. They're charging more for the gate there, $75 a ticket. There was a little bit in there about being the Bing Crosby of Ohio and losing hope, and that made me chuckle just a little bit because Bing Crosby and Bob Hope were probably relatively forgotten by modern day viewers, but they were a very popular duo in the 1940s, 50s, and by the 1970s they were maybe classics at that time. And now history has moved on a little bit. Not that you can't respect them. I know I listened to Bob Hope stuff back in the 70s as a kid, so they were still around at that point. But that Bing Crosby loses hope, I mean, that's a gag that just keeps on giving until your entire audience doesn't know what it is. Then we bring on William W.D. Bud Price, and in this case he came to talk about something, but it all got moved. All of the conversation got moved to this strap around his chin, which every time he's been on, we've been reminded that it is chinodonty because he has that underbite. And in this case, it really goes off the rails in terms of what this story is. It's kind of a tall tale kind of feel to it, even if it is in Bud's actual life. But basically, this is what led him to the chinodonty, and apparently it's still got another 7 years to go. He's been wearing it for about a year at this point, and he's gonna have to wear that pretty much all the time. Then we bring out so Bud was a recurring character. He's already shown up 3 times on the episode. Philip Maltby is a new guest, but really feels like someone that we've seen before quite a bit. Maybe we've seen once before, I don't remember. But for sure, Barth has plugged Phil's Fashion Funwear many, many times in this series, and the implication being that Barth is getting some kickbacks. But in this case, now Phil is here to argue his case against Dr. Van Moot, who earlier, I think it was the second episode of the series, had suggested that leisure suits cause cancer. And leisure suits, as Philip tells us, are not harmful. And in fact, they might even, well, he's not going to say that they do cure cancer, but, he's not going to rule it out. I, for one, like leisure suits. I don't necessarily like the weird pseudoscience behind it, and I will understand that this is comedy. I get it. Don't explain me. Please don't at me about that. But, there is a bit of that thought process of someone just saying something on television and all of a sudden everyone believes it. I'm not going to link you to people who do this. Just, I hope you get it. But there is a whole thing about, leisure suits just being extra healthy. And while I enjoy leisure suits, or leisure suits, depending on who you talk to, I definitely don't believe there's a health concern that's happening there. So it amuses me. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. So now it's time for me to take it back to the topic of the week. Last month, we were talking about Tom and Mary Hartman from Mary Hartman, and today's response is from Ariel Malanga. Tom and Mary Hartman have a dysfunctional marriage. They love each other but do not have the inner resources, education, or external support to address their problems in a constructive manner. The most salient trait of both Mary and Tom Hartman is their immaturity. They married very young, Mary was only 17, and are stuck in perpetual childhood. Especially Mary. Tom wears his baseball cap and jacket, is a frustrated pro baseball player, and works at a mind-numbing job. Mary wears pigtails and dresses in little girl pinafores in pale pinks and blues. She has no interests outside of cleaning her home and watching soap operas. Her long-term mental and emotional handicaps are never really addressed. Tom is impotent with Mary because he is impotent. Things just happen to him. And that is one of the responses from Ariel that will be spreading out throughout the week. And this is right on as far as I see it. We talked a bit about Mary Hartman herself yesterday and how she wishes to improve the lives of folks around her by cleaning the home and hoping that when everyone else's lives get better, her life gets better. At least that's the way I see it. Tom, on the other hand, is, as Ariel suggests, quite immature. Through most of the series, he wears his baseball cap and his letter jacket from high school for the brief time when he is making better of himself. It's still pretty much a mess. Something that isn't mentioned here is, at least, and of course it isn't mentioned because it's my point of view, but something that I find about Tom is that if we look very closely at him, he hates himself and his life. He feels really so much like a failure. And Ariel does mention that his job is mind-numbing, but this is definitely not what he wanted for himself, and he doesn't necessarily know that he and Mary don't have the tools to communicate with each other. And though they try very briefly, no, not briefly, but they try for a while to seek out help. Each of them, Mary and Tom, try to seek out help, and it doesn't go very well. There is a complicated relationship that we see as we start that series. Yesterday I recommended starting with, episode 1 of rerun season. That's my rerun season here. And now maybe I should recommend a little bit later down the line to see exactly how rough things can get. I'll find an episode and put that up for you all. If you haven't watched Mary Hartman, maybe you should. So everyone, that's all I've got to say about today's response to the topic of the week about Mary Hartman and Tom Hartman. That's really all I got to share about today's episode of Fernwood Tonight. So it's time now to thank you so much for watching with me. Thank you for leaving your thoughts, feelings, and impressions in the comments. Thank you for being you. And if you're Ariel, thank you for supporting the Patreon. If you're a person who is not Ariel, who hasn't yet supported and you want to, then follow this link that is somewhere on the below me, my lower third. Hey, that's a thing you could do. Everyone, thanks in any case. We will see you tomorrow night in Fernwood.